Jeff was right. Having more people on the team does not mean a better product. In reality, history has shown us larger teams have brought on more problems of things not being finished or too many ideas needing to be approved by more and more people to the point that progress isn't made or things aren't fleshed out well enough. However, I believe that although Jeff was right in keeping a small team allowing for direct communication and fixing, a side team could have been implemented to build a separate client in order to have PvE be separate and build a baseline of an idea in order to have the foundation of the building of PvE setup, allowing Jeff's team to swap roles and put Overwatch on a semi-life support state, or make skins and events to keep the game going while the heads, Jeff, work to build and flesh out PvE to a good state. The better idea would have been to keep the main OG Overwatch team working on Overwatch while taking one of the more higher-ups in that dev team and making them the lead for a secondary team to work on PvE. Thus, PvE still following the core idea that Jeff's team wanted while also allowing Jeff and the head of Team B to communicate in how things were going and in what direction. At some point, there would inevitably be a time where Overwatch would have a low for content, but that would be good if the community was made aware of it for the development of PvE. Jeff's team could work on further production and build up PvE to a state where they switch back and work on the main game. If not, the content for Overwatch would go from a turnaround of a few months to maybe a year. But taking approval from Jeff's team to have things still stay in line with the idea that he had in mind. Maps, heroes, skins, and events would turn from large events for the time, such as Junkenstein and the Archives, into just smaller spin-off events in order to keep updates coming into Overwatch. Jeff has probably seen the issues that happen when there are just too many people working on a project. The ideas get diluted, too many people have a voice, and too many people can veto things, basically slowing progress to a halt while also making results weaker. Hypothetically, I think that Overwatch PvE could be restarted. Maybe not so much right now that everyone's been laid off, but just stay with me for a second. PvE could still be done, but in a whole new format. It would need to be its own client, with its own team, an offshoot of Overwatch that isn't ham-fisted into the base game, which it never should have been in the first place, but with it still keeping all the items between both platforms. Items earned and paid for in Overwatch carrying into the PvE to be used in PvE when applicable, thus still earning monetization, but not forced between one team. One new team keeps up with the PvE in its own client, and the other team is purely focused on the Overwatch 2 experience. You may ask, but what am I gonna have to buy both games? Since it's free to play now, not really, but PvE really could be as free to play as, say, Overwatch 2 or Destiny 2. Keep up the monetization that was working before. Keep Overwatch 2 a free-to-play experience with updates akin to, say, Destiny 2. Maybe not follow its exact format since it was sort of AIDS in the grand scheme, but in the format of having updates that expand the story, while also keeping the replayability of the lore and fun abilities. We have seen the ideas they had that were thrown into Overwatch 2 after PvE was terminated. Fun, different gimmicks to already established heroes. The skill tree idea was something way too big to pull off for the time without an entire team working on what was essentially a whole new game. Skill tree had way too many ideas that basically was creating a whole new game with the team already making a separate game. But made, you say? That's why they should have hired on more people, just like the CEO said. That could have helped theoretically, but also could have made it to stay the same or make it worse. The idea should have been simplified into maybe 3 alt abilities for each base class ability, or just borrow and alter already existing abilities for the baseline of the content. Then add more extreme or crazy abilities like, say, Maze Giant Snowball or Ryan's Wall Climbing Slam. All this content of abilities could then be pulled over and used in PvP events for crazy wacky things such as April Fools and the other events that happened recently. The best format for that would be stealing abilities from heroes that either existed or haven't been made, and add them to the base heroes of the story. Then, as those are PvE fun moves that are tied only to PvE, they can be essentially reused and reworked into the core Overwatch experience to create new heroes. A good balance of double dipping on the content created, but also satisfying both sides of the community. The harsh reality of what happened was that 2 uniquely different game identities were being worked on simultaneously to make a huge, grand idea. But with the result that one side suffered from neglect while the other was being worked on. In that area, Jeff did fail in keeping PvP alive. But I would say It wasn't from selfish stupidity, but trying to keep the core idea of the game that everyone fell in love with there, while trying to create something that would have been a whole other game, which was more than one dedicated clear gold team could handle. A new team could have been hired on just to create the base framework for that idea, or to have Jeff hand essentially a base outline of what they needed in order to create the new step in what was to be the future of Overwatch. Although the likelihood of this happening is slim to none now that so many have been laid off, but I feel that there is still a monstrous community that would be willing to play a PvE Overwatch experience that includes the same microtransactions that exist in base PvP. They would just have to start now to get to that point. Hell, it would have to be free to play, almost early access with some content but continuous updates to the storyline. Let people wear and buy the skins they want in the missions while replaying them. The player base that has left was invested in the stories and the heroes, but now PvP has been minimalized to just collabs and passes. Myself, as well as many others I know, would jump back to Overwatch if they restarted their PvE idea to tell that story they wanted. I hope we could see that idea be developed at some point. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow my Twitch. Thank you.